Milton Friedman originally was a subscriber to Keynesian economics. And then he started studying it and started doing some modeling of it and then completely disproved it. And I was looking up the quote to make sure I got it right. Dick Durbin, our good friend from the state of Illinois, just said that the latest debt deal is the final internment of John Maynard Keynes. And I think the fact that we can have a hindsight now and see that all of this government spending, all of this money that's supposed to create and do things to stimulate the economy didn't work. The free market is the better way to go. It's a validation of what Milton Friedman said, and what Milton Friedman said was the better model. Perhaps we should then give more credence and credibility to what Milton Friedman said about education. If there is a silver bullet to fix education, and I don't think there is one silver bullet that if we just did this one thing, all of our education problems would go away. If there is a silver bullet, in my mind, it's following what Friedman said. And it's giving parents not only the responsibility, but the actual freedom to choose where their children go to school. Give them the freedom to say, you know what, this public school is not cutting it. I don't want my kids in this public school. I want them in that public school over there. Or, my kids aren't having their needs met in the public setting. I want to have my tax dollars used to pay for my child's education, but I want it in this system over here, which happens to be a private one, where their needs will be met. The importance of parents in a child's education keep getting diminished. And I try to say this every time I get in front, and Jason and I have done numerous panels, so he's probably sick of hearing me say this. The most important educator in a child's life is the parent. It's the parent. It's the parent that should be reading to the child before the child ever enters a public school system. It's the parent who takes the time to invest and help with homework. It's the parent that models how to speak correctly, models how to write, does those things to encourage the child's education. We have too often and too many times today where the parents literally, and I have a music education degree as well as a political science degree from OBU, and when I did my student teaching, my very last day at Sunset Elementary, I saw a child, and I'd be very interested in knowing what happened with this kid. He got in trouble, had a discipline problem. The mother, instead of taking responsibility for the child's actions and saying, okay, you know what, you're right, he shouldn't have kicked that kid in the groin. That probably was not a good, acceptable behavior. She stood in the hallway of the school and cursed at the principal and transferred that student to another school within the Edmond Public Schools. That was the child's 9th school in the Edmond Public Schools, and he was in 3rd grade. I would dare say that parent needed to have a different model of what the role and responsibility of the parent is. I got the lecture when I was a kid. If you get in trouble at school, it's going to be far worse when you get home. And it was far worse when I got home. And that kind of encouraged me not to get in trouble at school. Having parents be more involved in the kids' education is vitally important. There's no real economic ability for them to do that under the current system that we have. The current system we have says if you are rich enough to be able to move into Edmond or Deer Creek or Jinx or Broken Arrow or Norman or Moore or whatever district you feel has the best education possible in the public system, if you're wealthy enough to be able to move into that system, then you've got that great education coming your way. If you're not able to afford it, then we're going to leave you stuck in whatever system you live within boundaries of. Now, if you want to transfer them to another school in that district, you pay for the transportation, you pay for all that to get them to, get your children there, and we don't care if they go somewhere else. But the economic freedom just is not there. What Milton Friedman showed, and what I think he's proved, is that school choice works. It improves the quality of the product in public education. Take a look at what happened in Milwaukee. When Milwaukee went to a universal choice system a few years ago, the quality of Milwaukee public schools skyrocketed. Why? Because competition breeds success. Competition works. That's why we have the best higher education system in the world still. Why people, I went to my brother-in-law's graduation from the University of Texas San Antonio. The number of students who had foreign last names, and I'm not talking about in San Antonio Hispanic last names, I'm talking about East Indian last names, different cultures that are coming to the United States for higher education. It's because you can go to the University of Oklahoma, or you can go to Oklahoma Baptist. And you know what? We'll give you tax dollars and scholarships to do both. You can get a tax, it's called the Oklahoma Tuition Equalization Grant, OTEG. You can get a tax scholarship to go to a private school in Oklahoma. Higher ed is a model of competition. They're also a model of inefficiency at times in spending. In fact, let's just make it, they're a model of inefficiency in spending. But that competition has resulted in us still having the best higher education system in the world. We need to do the same thing for Common Ed. And with that, I'll turn it over to, or take questions or whatever.
So, Senator Jolley, what is your focus in the coming session? Any particular bills, quickly?
Yeah, I think visiting with Robert Enlow and some of the choice folks for the last several years, there's this phrase, and it's choice begets choice. Every year I try to work or identify some type of a school choice bill that I work as hard as I can, behind the scenes especially, to try to happen. John Ford and Dan Newberry have taken a great lead on it here. I think we've got to look this next session at online virtual schooling. That's one of the big things that allows for promotion of choice and choice options. I think we've got to take another step forward towards universal school choice. We have it right now, a scholarship program where corporate contributions can be accepted, and it's a great program. In fact, they showed a picture of the bill signing. But we've got to move the ball forward. The other thing we have to do is we also have to make sure that our public schools are moving the ball forward on accountability, that we're not dropping the ball. And in many ways, the legislation we had this past year, providing school grades that we actually understand. Instead of your school gets a 1380, what does that mean? Actually saying, okay, your school gets A, B, C, D, or F. That, I think, is a positive step forward. Ending social promotion and just saying, we don't care really if your kids can read. They had a birthday, so we want them to go on to the next grade, whether or not they're ready to accept the content or not. Caring more about that than whether or not they actually are capable of doing the content. Implementing those, Governor Bush was on the video. He said in a visit with OCPA, look, passing the bills, they're great, you should celebrate it. The implementation of those reforms is where you really have to do the work. We passed those bills last year. Now it's our job to make sure that we implement them the right way so students get the best outcome.
Absolutely.
My question will go to Senator Jolley, if I may. Is Oklahoma going to apply for the third round of Race to the Top funds, that early education fund? And if they are, why would we want to do that when it's a program that seems to be favored?
Yeah. I think that's probably a question that's better for Superintendent Barisi of the State Board of Education and the governor. It's my understanding that it is the plan to apply for it. I don't know the details on where we are in the application process. You'd have to ask the State Board of Education Superintendent Barisi on that one. I had a constituent suggest want to know about my thoughts on Race to the Cradle, I think is what he called it, which is probably pretty appropriate. You know, I would refer you to that, and I don't want to take Lewis's time on it. I think it's something we need to be cautious about, if we decide to do it, should we decide to do it? Milton Friedman is the reason we're here today, and Milton Friedman once said that there's nothing so permanent as a temporary government program. I think we need to be very, very cautious about any steps we take as it relates to any federal fund acceptance whatsoever.
I guess my question is, why do we want to do core curriculum standards when that's really not choice at all? I mean, it's not choice for the students, it's not choice for the teachers, and not only that, it removes the choice from parents all the way from the local level to the federal level. And just as a follow-up, Milton, the Friedman Foundation, signed a manifesto against Common Core standards. So I'm just curious to know, why that's still going on.
Yeah, the core standards there's not universal agreement on that. The Friedmans included on their video Jeb Bush as someone who supports what they're doing. Jeb Bush just wrote a letter in support of the core curriculum standards to ALEC last week. So this is an area where you've got disagreement, and it's still in development. I think
it's not. The law has been passed. It's
okay.
not.
But it's not. And you've got a bill to try to get rid of that law. So what I'm saying is that it's still in process of discussion. I had a constituent who's here today who gave me a paper that you wrote just last week on it, or 2 weeks ago, a week and a half. I think when you look at it, there is already no choice on the curriculum. We have a state-mandated curriculum that every public school has to abide by. They're called the PASS standards in Oklahoma, for those who aren't familiar with it. What we're talking about is whether or not Oklahoma's PASS standards will be aligned with the Common Core standards, which are being currently developed. Some of them have already been released, some of them are still in the process of being developed. And then are we going to participate in a common assessment system? The fear is that this creates a national curriculum. I think those fears are justified. I think that there is a major problem with the federal government saying, in order to get any of this federal funding, you have to voluntarily adopt these standards. That's having a gun to our head, and that is, I don't think that's the right way of doing it. But in terms of it in the context of choice, I view it as a different thing. When I was walking and knocking doors and asking people what's important to you, when someone would say education, I would ask them to explain. Why? What about education? There were numerous answers onto what people thought the problem with education was. One was, we got rid of discipline in the schools. Another feeling is, we got rid of prayer in schools. Another one was, we dumbed down the curriculum. Another is, we teach to the test. All these different things. This is the beauty of Friedman, in my mind, is that it allows the parent and empowers the parent. And I'm going to have to disagree a little bit with Representative Inman's statement that they've got like a 1 in 5 shot of having a good school. It empowers the parent to choose the school that takes care of those areas where they feel the public schools are failing. If you feel like the problem is that God has been taken out of the schools and you want to have prayer and you want to have some religious instruction, then be able to have a voucher, be able to have a scholarship that allows you to take those dollars and go to an Oklahoma Christian Academy or Oklahoma Christian Schools or a Christian Heritage Academy. If you feel like the area is disciplined, then be able to take those dollars and use it at someplace like a military academy where you get more of the discipline. What happens with public schools, though, in my mind, that's a corresponding argument, not an either or. In my mind, Common Core and school choice, they don't have anything to do with each other. You may disagree, you may think that they're entwined. In my mind, school choice is giving parents the flexibility to take the money that they're spending in tax dollars and use it as they think their students, their children, would best be benefited. And that's where I support. I've got to get.
Thank you,
But
Senator.
thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. We appreciate it.